Alright, the change oil light is flashing on my truck here. It's a 2000 Silverado, 5.3 liter, the V8 and the LS. One of the last, I'm pretty certain one of the last years of decent, or of the actual decent LS block. But so first thing you're gonna want to do is start it and let it get warm so that the oil actually flows out. And run your truck for 5 minutes or so. Doesn't take too long to get it warmed up. See here, change engine oil. So that's what we're gonna do. Actually, you can see my truck's still decently warm. Because I've been running it quite a bit today, so. But let it warm up, and then we'll back up. Well, probably run that too if you want. It's a tropical heat wave today here in Minnesota, so we're gonna take advantage of it.
Morning, dickhead.
Hello, moron.
What are you,
Never mind, just forget it.
who's the guy yakking at your door?
Just mind your own business, will you?
Mind your own business, will you? Mind your own business. Why don't you tie your shoelace? You'll fall on
shut
your
up.
stupid head. Having a heat wave here. We're having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave.
It's 1:33 right now, so we'll give it 5 minutes and then we'll come back. Alright, it's been about 5-10 minutes. Shut off, and you take your oil cap off. If you can figure out how to take it off. There you go. And you can pull your dipstick also. Just helps the old oil drain a little bit faster. You don't have to do it, but it doesn't hurt. Alright, some other things you're going to need are obviously oil. In winter, I like to use 5W30 just because it's a little bit thinner. Makes your truck start a little bit easier in theory. You don't want it super cold in here. This truck takes 6 quarts, so get 5, and then you can need at least 1 extra, obviously. Might want some gloves, never hurts. Your filter. If you don't know what filter your truck takes, you can go online obviously and Google it. Otherwise, if you go to Walmart, more than likely every Walmart I've been to has a little oil filter computer thing right next to all the oil filters, and you can just punch in your make and model and it'll bring up the filters that are compatible with your truck. Some rags don't hurt. You might need an oil filter wrench or a channel locks or something similar in case the filter is too tight, because, well, when I do it I like to only hand tighten it because then you can actually take it off. Otherwise sometimes it gets really stuck on there, which is not ideal. Oh. And then this is completely optional. You don't have to do this, but I like to write the mileage, like the current mileage on my odometer on the filter, just in case I forget when I changed it last. and my truck doesn't tell me something like that. But alright, I'll shut up and we'll see if we can. I got barely enough room to fit under my truck right now, so I'm gonna have to jack it up. But you're gonna need to take the drain belt off, you're gonna need a 15mm socket and wrench. And then obviously, well, not obviously, I guess if you've never done this it wouldn't be obvious, but you are going to want something to drain your oil into as well. And like I said, my truck holds 6 quarts, so make sure that your pan can hold 6 quarts, otherwise you'll end up overflowing it, which I've done plenty of time. So alright, before I curl under here, I'm on the driver's side. Basically pretty close to, well, basically the front of the, right behind the front left tire. If you go directly under, you're gonna find the oil pan and the oil filter. So here's the front left tire. Come directly under. I already put my pan under here, but let's see. Well, I'm gonna have to point it out right there is your 15mm drain bolt, and right there, that blue looking thing, that would be your oil filter. There we go. Okay, I had to crack it loose with my filter wrench, even though I only hand tighten them, but it still tightened itself pretty good there. Alright, this is hard to see. Okay, here we go. See, I change my oil, or at least I try to change my oil every 3,000 miles or so, and every time I do it, it comes out just completely, well, this just isn't too terrible, I guess, but usually it comes out real black. I also ended up having to jack it up a little bit here too, because there just wasn't quite enough room for me to squeeze under there with all this ice here. And my tire's very low too, which doesn't help at all. Alright, after you let that drain for a while, I want to take a rag and try and clean up all the mating surfaces, like where the bolt touches the pan and where the filter touches the filter housing, or whatever you call it, the actual filter, and everything else that got covered in oil when you took it off. It's also not a bad idea. Well, it's also, I would highly recommend that you take a clean rag and wipe off your drain bolt as well. And then I also, some filters say, like sometimes I'll get the Mopar filters or the Fram. I don't like the Fram, but every time I've ever changed my oil, I've pre-filled the filter just because I think it makes sense to me. I don't like it being dry I don't like putting it in there without oil. I'm sure there's an answer out there somewhere if it's actually necessary or not, but I just like to do it. And on this one, actually, it says, it's got little images here. It says to clean it, pre-fill it, screw it in, and then once you're snug, like once this is snug, then you're supposed to go an extra 3/4 to 1 turn. And I don't know exactly what that little logo is supposed to mean, but I would assume maybe it means check for leaks. But it can, pre-filling them can be a little more tricky if you have a filter that's mounted horizontally. Like, another thing I like to do is take some oil and put it on that gasket on the filter, just a little bit of it, so that it's not just dry against that metal. But take a ratchet and tighten it. Somewhere out there's a torque spec for that, but I'm not somewhere out there, so just make sure everything's nice and clean again. Most importantly, the spot where your filter meets the metal, take it off. Another thing is you don't want to cross thread this, so just make sure it goes on smooth and without any fighting. Alright. Got about a half on her, so call that good. Now you're just gonna want to triple make sure everything is nice and clean down on this side, and you can go to the top and add your new oil and start the truck, let it run for a bit, make sure it's at the right level. And you can also, if you want to be super safe, you can throw a piece of cardboard or something under the oil pan and while you let it run, just to make sure nothing's leaking. But you can see it right on my other one too. Oops. And you can take a funnel, unless you're feeling risky and you want to do it without a funnel. And grab your new oil. Alright, you put your oil cap back on, put your dipstick back in, start it, let it run for a bit, and then pull the dipstick and wipe clean, check it once or twice and make sure it's where it's supposed to be, but after that, it should be wrapped up. Figured I could also mention that, whoa, I don't drop it. If you've never pulled a dipstick before, at least I think they're all pretty similar, there's usually some hash marks on there. I don't know if you can see this at all. Those little diamond checker patterns there, I don't know if it's coming up, but you want it to be in there. It says operating range. You want it to be around the middle of those. Alright, and then to reset your oil light, what you do is turn the key to run and press the gas pedal 3 times within 5 seconds. Alright, well, I'm just now getting around to editing this video, and I completely forgot that I got a phone call right as I did the oil light reset. So I just went to my truck and grabbed my manual, and I'll put a couple of pictures on the process of doing that, and then there's a couple other pictures I'll put with some slightly useful information. So, all right, hopefully someone finds this useful.